Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 12 at Oaklawn Park on Arkansas Derby Saturday. And while there are two very good editions of the Arkansas Derby, you can argue that the Oaklawn Handicap for older horses is the best betting race of the graded stakes. Let's throw up the field for the Oaklawn Handicap. They're going 1 1/8, and basically they all can win. You've got Combatant in here, the winner of the Big Cap last time out. He's 4-1 on the morning line. Tacitus, coming back from the Saudi Cup. He has a big chance to win this race. Mr. Freeze just popped a 107 Buyer speed figure. He's 6-1. And on the far outside is Improbable, the beaten favorite in last year's Kentucky Derby and Preakness, who signaled a return to form with a promising effort last time out. Mike, this race should be a war.
Exactly how I was going to put it, Dan. This does look like an absolute war on paper. I think trips are going to be very important. There's a lot of speed in this race, a lot of quality speed, though. So even if they go fast, it doesn't necessarily have to compromise those horses. This is a very, very good race.
You talk about speed. Let's throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector. They have this race a red bar scenario. The number 4, Mr. Freeze, expected to make the lead. I'm not sure if Joe Talamo wants to hustle this horse going 1 1/8. I do believe that the 6, Warriors Charge, is going to be very, very fast out of there. I expect the 14, Improbable. He really doesn't have much choice. I think he has to go. By my standards, can be close to the pace as well. Trophy Chaser is fast. This pace will be solid.
I think it will, too. I'll disagree with that pace projector a little bit. I think the 6 Warriors Charge is going to the front in here. That's been his running style. He's been very successful running that way, and he won the Razorback on a legit pace last time.
The number 1, Chess Chief, multiple grade 3 placed, finished 3rd, disqualified from that position last time out in the grade 2 New Orleans Classic. Now, that was a race where there wasn't a lot of pace on. He sat close to it. He gave an even finish. It was a good performance. This time around, he's going to be taken back. Hope this fast pace materializes and hope to pick up a piece. The question is whether he's good enough. This is a very tough field.
He's probably not. I do think he ran pretty well last time, Dan. He was never going to win that race, but he was pretty game to be 3rd in there before he was disqualified. He's been graded stakes place a couple of times. Maybe he gets a piece. I can't see him winning.
Trophy Chaser began his career as a brilliant 2-year-old, 96 Buyer speed figure in only his 2nd lifetime start, but his career has been rejuvenated by being stretched out around 2 turns as a 4-year-old. A big win in an optional claiming race at Gulfstream, and then this performance in the Challenger Stakes last time out at 1 1/16. He's turning into the stretch, and that's King for a Day down on the inside. King for a Day has credentials. He beat Maximum Security in the Long Branch Stakes at Monmouth last summer. Maybe Trophy Chaser had an advantage because he was catching King for a Day off a long layoff.
Yeah, that probably played into it. They both ran really well in there, though. Trophy Chaser, I gave him extra credit, Dan, because he ran that horse down from behind, which I didn't think was going to be an easy thing for him to do. Listen, who would have thought, based on his early races, that he would be better going longer? But you know what? He's better going longer. His last 2 races make him a huge player in here.
Mr. Lucas has Bravazzo in here. He's banked $2 million in his career, despite not having won a race since the Risen Star of 2018. He's kept some good company. Last time out in the Essex Handicap, he was up close to a slow pace. Maybe the sloppy track was an excuse. This horse has just not come back running since the Clark of 2018.
Yeah, he really hasn't. I mean, I think you want to be a little lenient with him because he was a good 3-year-old, and basically he ran once as a 4-year-old. So he obviously had problems. He feels to me like he might be racing himself back into shape, Dan, but he has to take a step forward here. He's good enough to beat this field with his good race.
Is Mr. Freeze as effective at 9 furlongs as he is at 1 mile? Here he is at 1 mile last time out in the grade 2 Gulfstream Park mile. He was confidently ridden all the way around. Manny Franco had him in a nice 3-wide spot, and he just blows the doors off this field, winning with a career best 107 Buyer speed figure. After this race, Dale Romans wanted to run him in the Godolphin mile. And thankfully for Dale, he decided not to ship him to Dubai. He's been here the entire time training, but now he's going to stretch out to 1 1/8. He did win the West Virginia Derby at this distance, going 9 furlongs as a 3-year-old. I think he's a talented horse. Is the distance too much for him?
I don't think I would look at him that way. I mean, maybe he's better going a mile, but as you say, he's already won a graded stakes over this distance. He's run really well against Tom Datat a couple of times going this far. I think if he loses here, the distance will not be the excuse for him, and he's in great form right now.
Identifier pulled off a shocking win in the Howell's Hope last time out at astronomical odds, benefiting from a very fast pace. Let's watch that race right now. Identifier on the turn, far behind. I Need Just Whistle at 24-1. You know what's going to happen, folks. I'm going to get pipped at the wire by Identifier at 60-1. He's going to get another fast pace, but this is a much stronger field than the Howell's Hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to take him back in this race, especially off of a big upset win. As a matter of fact, back-to-back upset wins. I think the most interesting thing about his Howell's Hope, Dan, is that he was more of a forward kind of horse before that. And he came from way out of it to win that day. I still don't like him in here.
The 6 Warriors Charge is simply an underrated horse, and it's quite possible that he is still yet to reach his best potential for Brad Cox as a lightly raced 4-year-old. He has won 4 of his last 5 starts, and the loss came in the Preakness Stakes last year to War of Will. I agree with you. I think he's the pace setter in here. It's all about how fast he goes early.
Yeah, listen, they started using his speed early last year, and obviously that's how this horse wants to run. He's run nothing but good races since they've started putting him on the lead. You know, I thought for sure I was going to pick him, Dan, because I really loved his Razorback last time. He went a fast pace in there, and I love the way that he held on at the end of that race. I think he's super dangerous in here.
And as we watch the Razorback again, this is his first start of the year and only his second start since the Preakness. He went to the front, he went a legitimate pace, and he refused to lose. Now, he beat Bankett and Snapper Sinclair. This is going to be a tougher test, but this is a horse, you get the feeling that he's just razor sharp right now, and he is very, very fast. Mike, one of your favorite horses in training, or at least one of your favorite horses last time in training, was Combatant. I think you had him in the big cap at 9-1. This is a horse who early in his career for Steve Asmussen was a one-run closer, but he seemed to find his tactical speed. Maybe he was just going a little bit longer distance in the big cap. Let's watch that race right now. But these connections bought this horse at Keeneland November for $220,000. They've made the purchase price back. He won this race in nice fashion. He beat good horses like Multiplier and Midcourt. I wonder if 1 1/4 is a little bit better than 1 1/8, but he is getting a setup here, and he should be rolling in the stretch.
Yeah, he really should get a nice setup here. Listen, I'll admit, Dan, that I've always been a fan of his. I think you could obviously make the argument that he didn't really pan out as a 3 or 4-year-old. I've just always liked him, and I think he's good. And, you know, they tried to make him a turf horse for a while, which I think might have been a mistake. Since these connections bought him, obviously he has the big cap win, and he ran well there with a new top figure. I felt like his San Pasquale was a deceptively good effort and a real step in the right direction for him. I think the 9 furlongs is great for him, and he's going to get a setup in here. I just want to see what kind of price he goes off at.
And we get a formulator fact for Johnny Sadler, and a good one at that. Past 4 years, horses aged 4 and up, last out winners making their third start off a layoff of 61 days or greater on dirt, 6 for 11, a $3.50 return on investment. Skye Promise is next, and I think Skye Promise is more effective at longer distances. When he was first claimed by Diodoro for $40,000, they shipped him to Western Canada, they stretched him all the way out, and they made hay. They finally got a chance to stretch him out all the way again, last time out in the 12-furlong Temperance Hill, and as we turn to the stretch of that race, Mike, Skye Promise needed every inch of that 1.5 miles. He got a good pace setup as well.
Yeah, he did. And you know, I think you're right. That's what he really likes. He just gets up at the end of this race. Listen, I think he's run well in his last 2 starts, Dan, and he's going to have pace in this race, but I just think he's in too tough here.
Formulator fact for Skye Promise, past 30 days, horses aged 4 and up, last out winners in dirt routes, 5 for 10. $3.44 ROI. He'll be lingering far at the back of the pack. The pace will be fast. Just not sure He's the closer of the caliber of a horse like Combatant and perhaps some of the others. Tacitus is the key to this race. You could argue that Tacitus is the best horse in this race. Tacitus last year was stymied by bad luck. I thought in the Belmont he ran against the bias. In the Jim Dandy, he ran against the bias and he missed the break. In the Travers, he ran well against Code of Honor. Who knew he had that kind of speed when they put the blinkers on him? The Jockey Club Gold Cup was a disappointing performance. Maybe it was just simply a sign, Mike, that he had a long year and he was tailing off form. His Saudi Cup was a promising effort. But after shipping all the way to Saudi Arabia, they wanted to run him in the Dubai World Cup at 1.25 miles. He was ready to go at Maidan. Now they've had to ship him all the way back. His training has been somewhat compromised. Listen, this is a horse that could obviously win this race. He's racing without blinkers, which makes me think they're going to revert to the late running tactics that did okay for him last year, when second in the Belmont, fourth in the Derby. He's a talented horse. I think he's getting bet in this race.
That's how I looked at him too. Listen, I'm not going to be surprised when he runs well or if he even wins this race. I am, I'll admit that I got a little tired of him as a 3-year-old. I didn't think he ran that well in the Saudi Cup last time, Dan. I realize there's no maximum security in here, but I didn't think he ran. I thought he got a good trip and was really no factor in there. If he's 9-2, I'm not arguing. I think that's a very fair price on him. I think he gets bet down from there.
Captivating Moon is the number 10, 20-1 on the morning line for the underrated Chris Blockbarn. This is a horse that I thought ran deceptively well last time out in the New Orleans Classic. It was a race with no pace whatsoever. He lingered near the back, while the winner, by my standards, was right up close to the pace, and he finished a solid second. My problem is, this is a tougher race than the New Orleans Classic, and I'm just not sure he's good enough while I believe he's in sneaky good form.
Yeah, listen, I sort of look at his New Orleans Classic and think Leparoux almost rode him like they were just trying to get a piece in there. I mean, he never even put him into any kind of a move at any point in the race till they got to the stretch. And then I just thought he kind of grinded up there to get second. He ran fine. He fits this race well because there's going to be pace for him to run at. I am steadfast in my belief that this is a better turf horse.
Jury's still out as to how good Tax is. He won the Jim Dandy in a race where Tacitus missed the break and might have been up against the track a little bit. He was beaten in the Discovery by a talented horse and performer, but I'm just going to throw the Pegasus World Cup out. He raced without Lasix. He did not have a very good trip. And after that race, Danny Gargan said, listen, this horse needs a break. We're going to freshen him. And he mentioned one race right after the Pegasus World Cup. It was the Oaklawn Handicap. So they've been pointing for this race all along, and I think he might get a nice setup in mid-pack. At 15-1, I'm going to use him somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to be a big price, he has the credentials to win this race. He's not one of those horses, I think, who immediately comes to mind when you think of that 3-year-old class of last year, but he actually had some pretty good success against those horses. And I'll just agree with you, Dan, that you want to give him a pass for the Pegasus because he did stumble out of there. And then he raced wide before he just chucked it through the stretch. I wouldn't be too hard on him for that. I don't know, Dan. I still can't decide how good I think he is. Formulator fact: Thor Gargan, past 3 years, horses aged 4 and up, dirt routers off a 2 to 4 month layoff, 7 for 11, a $3.90 return on investment. By my standards, kind of like Warrior's Charge. He's won 4 out of his last 5. The loss came in the Kentucky Derby where he was probably overmatched and he didn't have a great trip to boot. I love how Brett Calhoun has handled this horse. He wanted to run him in those summer derbies. He came up with a foot problem and they said, you know something, let's have a nice 4-year-old. They brought him back at the fairgrounds, 2 easy wins, including a score last time out in the New Orleans Classic, and his tactical speed should serve him well in this race. He might have to improve a little bit, but that's not out of the question. I don't think it is either. He's had 2 perfect trips in his 2 races this year, but he's looked good winning those races as well. He has clearly improved. I don't necessarily like him that much in here, Dan, but if you do like him, you're going to get way better than that 9-2. I can't see him being that price in this race. Night Ops for the dangerous Brad Coxbarn is the number 13. This horse has won 3 out of his last 4, including the Essex Handicap at 1 mile and a 16th. Let's watch that race right now. The pace wasn't very fast. Night Ops is going to split horses
turning into the lane, and he's going to get up to win. I thought it was a good effort for Night Ox, a career best 97 Beyer speed figure. I think he's equally as good on fast and sloppy going, and he's another horse that can work out a mid-pack trip behind a fast pace. The question is against this group. This group is basically a grade 1 group. I'm not sure if Night Ox is a grade 1 horse.
Yeah, I don't think that he is. No, yeah, I'm not knocking his last 2 wins. He ran well both times, but he got an absolute perfect trip winning that race last time. And even if he gets that pin here, I don't think he can beat this field.
Here's a formulator fact, however, for Cox. Past 2 years, horses aged 4 and up, last out winning dirt routers and graded stakes races, 31%, $2.26 ROI. We complete the field with a horse that's mired in a terrible post position. That's the 14 Improbable, winner of the second in the Arkansas Derby, last year, beaten favorite in both the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. This is a horse who made his seasonal debut in the Oaklawn Mile last time out, and I thought he had a terrible post position that day. He made a big mid-race move while wide. We turn into the stretch of that race. He has the lead, and it takes one of the better horses in the country, Tom's Data, to run him down. This, to me, shows that Improbable is back on his best game, but he has another lousy post position.
Yeah, he ran great in this race. This pace was certainly legitimate, if not fast, and he was wide every step of the way. I really felt like he ran great in there, Dan. And he is a talented horse. I guess, to me, the real question is he as good at 9 furlongs as he is at 8? I think he's really more of a miler, and I don't know that he's necessarily going to get better with the added distance in here, but he ran really well last time, and I would not dismiss him lightly.
I certainly agree with you how well he ran, but I also agree with you. I think he's better at slightly shorter distances. Okay, time for our top selections for this year's edition of the Grade 2 Oaklawn Handicap. It is a wide open race, Mike. You're going with the number 7 Combatant. The big cap winner should get a big race shape.
Yeah, I think this race is going to set up the right way for him. And I do like his form since Sadler has taken over this horse. I like each of his last 2 races. They have him 4-1 favorite on the morning line, Dan. I didn't really see the race being bet that way. I probably wouldn't take him at that kind of price, but I thought he would drift off that. And I think he fixed this race really well.
I was very impressed with Mr. Freeze's last race at a mile. I think he's going to let the 6 Warriors charge clear off to the lead. I think he's going to try to get a tactical spot, and he should be very prominently placed when they turn into the stretch, and we'll see if he can stretch out to a mile and an eighth. 4:11.29 for me. 7:4.2.14 for Mike. The Grade 2 Oaklawn Handicap has an approximate post time of 6:04 Central on Saturday at Oaklawn. Best of luck.